Hello and welcome to episode 6 of Working Mum to Business Mum, helping working mums realise their dream of starting or growing their own business so that they can give up the day job to being more present in their families. I'm Debbie Lucas, and in this episode I'll help you create your ultra smart action plan to make your ultra smart goal a reality. I'll coach you through what you need to think about so that you can break your action plan down into smaller, manageable steps so that you don't feel overwhelmed. In episode 5, we created your ultra smart goal. I've had some pretty awesome goals shared with me already and look forward to hearing more about yours. But as I'm sure you'll know, a goal without a plan is nothing. So let's get you sorted for taking the necessary steps to achieve your goal. If you subscribe to my newsletter, you'll already have my handy action planner in your inbox. And if you don't worry, you can still download your copy from the link in the show notes or on my website, coachingwithdebbie.com/podcast. Now, this may seem a little bit strange, but we're going to work backwards here. Firstly, write out your goal at the top of your worksheet. You can copy this over from your Creating Your Ultra Smart Goal worksheet. And then for a moment, I'd like you to go to the date that you've written down for achieving your goal and think about how you would know that you have achieved it. Go back to what you would see, what you would hear, and what you would feel. And then I'd like you to think about what the last thing is that needs to happen for you to achieve it, and then work your way back from there and note down each preceding step or action that needs to happen until you get to your starting point. Let's take this podcast, for example. My goal was that I would have this podcast on the airwaves on Monday, the 20th of December 2021. I knew I would have achieved it when I saw it on the podcast platforms and people were listening to it. I would hear it on the podcast platforms and I would feel that sense of achievement of having done it in just under 5 weeks. The last thing that needed to happen was to actually publish the podcast through a hosting platform. And then my steps or actions working back from there looked like this. Sign up to a hosting platform and learn how to use it. Before that, I had to have my episodes edited and produced. Before that, I had to record my episodes. Before that, I had to find recording software and learn how to use it. And before that, I had to have my scripts written. And before that, I had to plan and structure my content. That was the main structure of my action plan. And I then used that to work out the timescales for each step so that I didn't feel like I needed to do it all at once. I find that adding deadlines for each step or task really helps me to stay on track. Obviously, alongside this, there were other tasks such as producing my guides and worksheets for each episode, as well as scheduling social media posts, my newsletter, and promoting the podcast. So I had these actions sitting alongside everything else with a similar timeline. And I now have a system and checklist in place for each episode that I use on a weekly basis to ensure that things run smoothly. Once you have your steps and actions written out, you'll need to consider when you'll be undertaking each task. In episode 4, I discussed the challenges of balancing all your other commitments alongside starting or growing your business. It really is helpful to understand how much time you have to work on each step of your action plan. Next, for each step, write out all the necessary tasks you need to do and as best you can, an estimated length of time that it will take you to complete. There may be certain tasks that need to happen on a specific date, so make sure that you put those in first. For example, I knew that I had to have my podcasts submitted to Apple and Google because it took some time for them to approve it, so I needed to get those in and work back from there. Once you have all your tasks and steps listed, working back from your final step, write a date beside each of the tasks and actions. You may need to use a little bit of your mathematical brain here, as you may notice that some tasks that take longer may overlap with other ones that need done on a certain date. So be sure to plan accordingly and adjust your schedule. Mapping it all out like this, though, really lets you see where some of the pressure points may be. And I would suggest that at those times, you may want to consider how you are able to carve out a little bit more time or pull in some extra help to keep your momentum going. For example, one of the tasks for my podcast was to set up some funnels for the resources I am sharing through my episodes. If I had more time, I certainly could have figured it out for myself, but I made the decision to ask someone to help with it, and a wee shout out to Marta for stepping up here. Guys, I can't tell you how much pressure that took off me, and it meant that I could focus on the rest of the work I needed to do for the podcast and actually enjoy the process so much more. Now that you have everything mapped out on your action planner, you can transfer it into your diary or journal planner so that you have everything in one place. And there are a couple of extra tips that I'd like to share with you here. Depending on the deadline, time frame, or number of steps, try to ensure that you have at least 3 of your high-level steps per month planned. Also, when you do have time, try to get ahead of your schedule. Being ahead gives you a little bit of breathing space and is always good in the unfortunate eventuality that you're not able to work on the things you had planned when you planned them. Hey, we all know that life happens sometimes. A gym instructor once gave me some wise advice. Always go to the gym or exercise when you feel like it, because there will inevitably be days when you don't feel like it, and you'll be grateful that you did it the day before. This has always stuck with me, and so I always try to do a little bit more when I'm motivated, have the time, and I'm in the flow, so that if there is a day when I'm not able to or not feeling up to it, I can take some time for myself without feeling the pressure. One last tip is to get yourself an accountability buddy, preferably someone who doesn't have a vested interest in your time. It is really helpful to talk through your plan for the week or month and then to check in at agreed periods throughout. I know that having one has helped to keep me on track on days when I've wanted to procrastinate. Different people deal with expectations differently, and I'll cover that more in a future episode. And whilst it may make no difference to my accountability buddy whether I do what I set out to, the very fact that I have committed my plan out loud to someone is enough to keep me going through the week. An accountability buddy is also great to act as a sounding board and hopefully keep you from overstretching yourself too. They don't even necessarily have to be in the same field as you. As long as you connect with them, you're on to a winner. If you'd like an accountability buddy, I'm sure there will be someone in my Facebook group who would love to pair up. I'll have a thread going for anyone who is seeking a buddy, and you can pair up with someone that you click with. So why not join the group and find your future accountability buddy? As always, you can find me on all the usual social media channels and in my Facebook group, Working Mum to Business Mum, and of course on my website, coachingwithdebbie.com, where you'll find the link to sign up to my weekly newsletter so that you get any resources I mention in my episodes directly to your inbox. You'll also find a whole host of other helpful hints, tips and information which I'm constantly updating, and all the links are in the show notes. And to end with a great quote which really forms the basis of this episode, from Reid. A dream written down with a date becomes a goal. A goal broken down into steps becomes a plan. And a plan backed by action makes your dreams come true. Let me know how you get on with your action plan. I'd love to hear more and see pictures of yours. You can share them with me on all the usual social media channels and in my Facebook group, Working Mum to Business Mum. In episode 7, I'll be discussing perfectionism as a form of procrastination. This certainly was and is still sometimes something that I personally struggle with. If you like this podcast, it would really help me a lot if you can share it, rate and review it, and if you don't want to miss the next episode, which is released weekly, then hit that subscribe button. Until then, wishing you all the best.